Welcome to Media and Monuments, presented by Women in Film and Video in Washington, D.C. Media and Monuments features conversations with industry professionals speaking on a range of topics of interest to screen-based media makers.
Welcome back to another of our specials featuring all three hosts. This time we're focusing on fall sweeps, what that term means, some history on how it came to be, and how important sweeps are, and what we're each looking forward to watching this fall, taking into consideration how the entertainment industry strikes have affected the lineups this year. I'm Candice Block, joined by Sandra Abrams and Tara Jabari. And to kick things off, what are sweeps and why are they called that? Sandra?
Thanks, Candice. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what are sweeps. So sweeps are the time period when television stations and networks typically schedule programming designed to attract a larger audience than usual. And one of the reasons why they do that is because they want to expose a higher ratings for the advertising time. So they may have a special storyline or they may have a special guest. And I'll give you a modern day example of this. American Horror Story, which just came out recently, it has a series going on called Delicate. Well, they have a celebrity guest in order to boost their ratings or to attract new people, and that's Kim Kardashian. Earlier, many years ago, there may have been a show like Dynasty, and they had Diane Carroll. So again, it's to have the boost the ratings and boost the advertising. Although sweeps today is not as important for the networks because they have new programming going on all the time, it's vitally important to local advertisers because they can say, well, this show at 8 o'clock has a certain rating or a certain share and it has a demographic of 18 to 34, and therefore we deserve a certain rating. Just this past Sunday night was NFL football, and Taylor Swift was on with Travis Kelce, and suddenly the 12 to 24 demographic has millions more people listening or watching the football game, and therefore people never would have watched football. Suddenly they're watching football. So sweeps is a time for the networks to boost their ratings, but it's not as prevalent as it is today.
It's for ad pricing as well. And so they want to make sure that they're getting their absolute best ratings to show that so many more people are watching so they can get the best prices for ads. And they're called sweeps because back in the day with like the Nielsen ratings and everything, when they would do this, they would every so often check in on the ratings, and they would kind of sweep the country east to west and get this information. And then it typically around 4 times of year, like November, or around holidays or anything.
Right. November, February, and May. And then the off-season book would be July. They would do that and look at the ratings for that. And Nielsen actually started back in the 50s. And there was another service called Arbitron. An Arbitron rating service would also put out books. And Arbitron was actually based here in Beltsville. And I have relatives who used to work for Arbitron and used to do everything as a diary method. But now they don't have to worry about that because they have what's called people meters.
Yeah, and stuff is different now because people are getting and watching their stuff differently. Back in the day, obviously, it would be you're watching TV and everyone tunes in at the same time when something is being broadcast live. And, now with streaming and everything, it's all different. But we still kind of hold on to the idea of sweeps. You hear sweeps all the time, and that's usually a time to know that like the best stuff is coming out because they're trying to get the most eyeballs on. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway that I get from what sweeps are is that, they're times of year, and we are heading up towards the fall sweeps. Although we're already in fall programming, kind of, September, October, November, that's all fall programming. But yeah, Sandra, you were starting to explain a little bit more about some of these other companies or whatever that do it. And our listeners are going to find out that you actually have a history in kind of TV advertising and all that. So please elaborate a little bit about your experiences with that.
My early work experience working in the television business was working as a television research analyst. And I worked in New York for a company called Telerep. And at that company, it was started by a man named Al Massini. Now, Al Massini created the show Entertainment Tonight. So if you watch at the end of Entertainment Tonight, you'll see created by Al Massini. And what we did, we would take the Arbitron and Nielsen books when they came out, as we discussed earlier, for November, February, and June, May, and July. And we would analyze that information and write market research reports for different local television markets, anywhere from Waco, Texas, Seattle, Washington. I wrote market reports for what was happening, the television ratings-wise, for Miami. And we would say, okay, at 1 minute to 8, this rating on a particular show, the local television station, that rating is X. And therefore, that local salesperson in that market would go and say to the local advertiser car company, here, you want to buy this particular time period, and this is what the rating is going to be. But it's interesting how that came about with the advertisers. I'll give you an anecdote. When I was working at Telerep in New York, one day there was this elderly gentleman at the Xerox machine, and he was asking me questions about how to run the Xerox machine. So I explained to him, here's what you need to do. I made some Xerox copies for him. And then as I walked away, these two guys come over and they go, you know who that is? Well, I don't know who that is. And they go, it's Pat Weaver. Okay. And they said, Pat Weaver used to be the president of NBC. Thanks to Pat Weaver, he created the show, the Today Show. But what he also did was he encouraged the networks to create their own shows. So that's obviously something we still have today. But the other thing that he did was he also had the networks, or also had the concept of selling advertising time to a variety of brands. So not just, the flower hour for this particular television show, but, one 30-second commercial to a car company, one 30-second commercial to a flower company, one 30-second commercial to a diaper company. So because of Pat Weaver, we have all these different brands selling, not just the TV shows being beholden to one particular sponsor. And Pat Weaver is the father of Sigourney Weaver. So just a little kind of historic context, or a little anecdote from my past to explain why we have, 70 some years later, we still have this. The networks or the streaming services are creating their own shows, and they're selling to individual sponsors and not just one.
Mm-hmm. So good or bad there. Now we have all these ads instead of, the something hour brought to you by,
For the sweeps, does that also include how you'll watch the same show all over the country, like American Horror Story, but the commercials you get in Kansas will be different from what you get in Virginia, from what you get in Idaho, and all that stuff? That is also because of Weaver and because of sweeps, so that the local people, advertisers, can get the audience?
What happens is the local advertiser will get so many minutes at a certain time, and then the actual networks, ABC, CBS, their streaming services, will be allocated certain time period as well. And then that way you may get one national commercial, say a diabetes drug, which will show all across the United States. But then because of the local time period will be allocated, say at 8:05, it will be the local car company here in the Washington, D.C. area, but it may be the local hospital in Kansas City.
Yeah. So, local and national all needs to have that constant update, or, well, the advertisers, the networks and everything in the shows get to constantly recalibrate and say, we're a really big hit show, so now it costs more to advertise on this time slot, or this show is not doing as well. And I would imagine that some of that information is what determines, if not it's the information that determines if a show is doing well or not, and if it gets picked up again. And we find out all the time if shows are coming back, or if they've been renewed or picked up again, and all of that. And you get excited. If you love a show, you want it to come back. So there's season premieres that are in different times of the year. The fall seasons of shows are already starting to premiere. We're going to talk about some of those and what we're excited about. But what's different about this year in 2023, one of the major things is, as we all know, there have been the entertainment industry strikes. So the Writers Guild of America strike, that is currently, as we're recording this, being ratified, the new contract, because the strike that lasted 148 days, that began on May 2nd, the strike was lifted and ended on September 27th. So that one is resolved, thankfully, after 5 crazy months of that going on and halting production on a lot of projects. The SAG-AFTRA strike is still going on, and that is also huge. So that's the Screen Actors Guild, and that's been going since July 14th. So that one's still going on. And because of these strikes, we don't know when the SAG-AFTRA one, hopefully very soon, will be resolved as well. But either way, these shows have not been able to be in production when they normally would to be released this fall. So there's still plenty out, but just as a heads up for this particular season, some big shows that are not returning this fall because of production halts that honored the strikes. You got shows on networks such as Abbott Elementary, Ghosts, Grey's Anatomy, Saturday Night Live. Those ones don't have like their usual fall returns this year. And then also on cable and streaming, some big hits that aren't coming back this year, which are now scheduled for, like late 2024 or 2025. You've got Billions, Euphoria, that's a big one. The Last of Us, which I'm sad to see not come back right away as well. Also Euphoria. P-Valley, Yellow Jackets, 1923, The Handmaid's Tale, Severance, and Stranger Things. Those are some big ones that are not coming back this fall that people were looking forward to. Were any of those ones that you guys were looking forward to that you're kind of bummed we have to wait longer for?
It was The Handmaid's Tale and what was the one that Stranger Things that I was most looking forward to because they had good cliffhangers. And I think it was the last season, so there's even more hype. Like, how do you end a show that you like, a beloved show kind of thing? And so that's a little frustrating.
Yeah, you want to stick the landing. You want to finish strong. Anyway, there are a ton of shows that are coming back. So we can talk about some of those. Some are already out that we can touch on, but we'll let you know some that are coming and kind of chat about those.
I'm a big fan of the Saturday Night Live, and I thought they were coming back sooner than anticipated because the late shows, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, they came back last night. So my thinking was, why isn't Saturday Night Live coming back? It should come back right away. And the other thing is Ghost and Abbott Elementary. I like those shows. They're cute.
Yeah, I watch Abbott. It's cute.
I love that show.
I sort of out of, I don't know, habit kind of hate watch Grey's Anatomy now. It just continues to record on my DVR. So yeah, like I keep wanting to quit it.
Oh, I quit it years ago. But I did meet a writer from Abbott Elementary during the strike. And I was just telling her, like, please, like, we're in solidarity, but you guys do such a great job of just it makes you so happy. That show is so lovely.
Yeah, it's cute. It's nice. It's uplifting. It's a fun little snack of a show. Ghost is the English one, or the American one, I mean. I watched the UK version of that first, and so I really liked the UK version, and kind of out of principle, I haven't started watching this one yet, but I feel like it's gonna be just as enjoyable.
I've seen it. It has its own kind of charms. You know how it's not as if you watch The Office UK and US version, they're almost identical. It's not like that. So I appreciate that. But yeah, it wasn't my jam personally.
In terms of things that are our jam, there's a bunch of things that are already out, as you could tell based on Sandra revealing that the late night shows just came back last night. You could tell we're recording on October 3rd, and a few things have already come back out this season that we can mention. There's too many to mention. There's still plenty to watch, so don't worry if you're worried that the strikes are taking away all your entertainment. They're not. I was personally excited to welcome back Welcome to Wrexham on FX. That one I think is just such a heartfelt little docuseries. I love it so much. Wheel of Time is back on Amazon Prime. That one, I watched the first season and I remember liking it. I need to be refreshed on it, because every time I look at the next to start that season, I'm like, I need a refresher.
Is that the one with Rosamund Pike?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, I thought,
Yeah,
that
it's
looks
like
really
a nice
good.
fantasy or
Mhm.
it's like a fantasy element thing. It was I remember it being entertaining. There's so many things and you wait so long and you watch so much stuff, I need a refresher on that one. There's a bunch of shows, like there's apparently Love is Blind After the Altar is a
That's
new
another
show.
takeoff on, Married in 60 Days and Married the Other Way in 60 Days and,
Yeah, all these matchmaker
Love
shows.
Island, Dating Island, it's all the same thing.
I've never watched it, but I'm in a couple of group chats, and yeah, I travel quite a bit, and I was in a travel program, and so for 1 month out of a 4-month program, I had left. So I was gone for month 3. So month 1 and 2, everything's fine. Month 3, I had to head out to a different place. Came back month 4. Month 4, every single person, male, female, from their 20s to their 50s to their 60s to their 40s, everyone was watching Love is Blind. And so now in that same group chat, they are like, oh my gosh, the new episodes are out. Can you believe this and this? And I'm like, oh no, what happened in that month 3? You guys can't survive without, like, I left you for a month and this is what happens.
It was the show du jour for a little bit there. I watched the first or second, I can't remember. I watched at least one season of that, and it's entertaining because it's it's trashy TV and it's a ridiculous concept, and you watch it because I always think it's funny when they're like, but the stakes are so high because they get married at the end. I'm like, oh yeah, because divorce isn't a thing. Like they're acting like it's a forever permanent thing. I'm like, yeah, or you could even get that annulled, or you could get divorced or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you would want it to be, but yeah.
Yeah, and now they're promoting, the Golden Bachelor. That's the other big thing after, so 72, he's out there looking for love.
All kinds of dating and connection type shows. Kind of going the other way, I guess. There's also shows like The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon on AMC that's already back. The Morning Show is back on Apple TV. I watched that one. That was a very good show.
I'm excited for that.
I just want to add some context here about the morning show. So, there's the SAG-AFTRA strike that's going on. It's being led by Fran Drescher. Fran Drescher created the show called The Nanny, and it ran from like 94 to 97 or so. So at that time, she was getting $1.5 million an episode, and there was 22 episodes a year. So fast forward, at that time when Friends was on, Jennifer Anderson was getting $22,000 per episode. Now, fast forward to what's happening with television. The morning show, there's only 10 episodes per quote unquote season, and Jennifer Anderson is getting $2 million per episode. So it just shows you how much things have changed when it comes to, in terms of how many episodes are out there, how much money these people are making for these different shows, which gets back to why the writers issue was such a big deal, because you went from 22 episodes to now there's only 10 episodes on these big major shows.
Yeah, I mean, and they also vary if it's like a 30-minute taped in front of a live studio audience sitcom versus, an hour-long drama with a lot more production value. Like that changes things as well. And then just in general, 94, 95, that's much different than now in 2023, just inflation. I mean, we covered it in some other earlier episodes about the strikes, but yeah, it's crazy how the streaming services have come in and they've changed a lot of how the creatives, the people who make the content, get paid. And these strikes are important because they're working to make things more just and equitable and fair and give the people what they deserve, who are making these hit shows and making all that content possible. To continue on, I know you guys mentioned American Horror Story a bunch already. That one, Delicate Part 1, is already out. That is a show that I keep meaning to watch. I know that it's like a different vibe each season. It just seems like a cool concept. I just haven't gotten into it.
None of them?
You're
None of the
disappointed I haven't seen it yet? No, I think I just didn't didn't
Not even
start.
the
There's too many
first
other
one?
things that I watch. I'll do it though. I'll
The
do it.
first
I'll go
one's
back and start
good.
to watch them.
The first one's really
Okay.
good.
Well, I will promise you this, Tara. This spooky season, I will watch at least season 1. There's a lot of other shows. The Voice is back on NBC. You got like a lot of Fox shows back, like Kitchen Nightmares and Masked Singer, and the new one, Snake Oil. You've got CBS classics like Survivor and The Amazing Race that came back. There's Hell's Kitchen. I personally very excited that Lego Masters is back. Do you guys watch that show? Because it's a really good, cute show.
I do not, but I know a lot of people love it.
It's premiering on September 28th on Fox.
Yeah, so it's already out. I've watched the first episode already. The second episode, which will be out by the time this show comes out. But it's got kittens in it. They're building houses for kittens. I'm so excited. Anyway, I just think it's a really cute show, and it's very wholesome as well. So, and it's like for all ages. I love it. There's also Gen V came out, and that is it's like a spin-off of The Boys, and it's kind of like a younger generation, and I'm very curious to watch that because I absolutely love The Boys. I think it's a really, really well done show, but I have not yet had the time to start watching Gen V, but it's on my to watch list. So Tara, do you watch The Boys?
I just started it in this new year. So yeah, it was one of those shows that I kept hearing about. So I was like, okay, I'll finally watch it. And I did. It's wild. I was like, what is happening? So I'm curious about Gen V. Is it going to be as ridiculous, as disgusting, as, all sorts of stuff?
Like intense and visceral. Yeah, I feel like it's a show that Sandra would not enjoy.
No, I don't think
it's a lot of gore. A lot of intense violence, and
it's not scary, but it's just disgusting. But also I understood why everybody had a crush on Jack Quaid, because he became the internet's boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid's kid, cool. I don't know. And then I watched him, like, I get it. He's such a gem.
Yeah, he's really sweet in that show. I didn't have the crush, but he's just not my type.
But you can see where people really respond well to that character.
Yeah, he's a likable character. But yeah, there's all the classics that are coming back too. You got Shark Tank, The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, those kinds of, and some of the newer ones like Quantum Leap, those are back. I am very excited for Our Flag Means Death coming on Max. That's very soon. It's like in a couple days, I think. That one, and Loki on Disney Plus. Those are coming out very soon. Very excited about those. I'm sure a lot of people are very excited about Loki. There's a lot of buzz about that one. And then one other one that is kind of interesting is Frasier is coming out on Paramount Plus. Frasier's coming back.
I haven't even seen a trailer for it or anything.
Oh, I've seen a few. I've seen some ads and things.
Oh, you have? Okay. I'm nervous because I heard Niles isn't coming back, and the dad is in real life. He died, and so did Eddie.
Oh no!
The dog.
Well, I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while.
This
does take place quite a lot of years later. I mean, so I believe I don't know that much about it.
It's a beloved show.
Yeah, it centers on the Frasier and his son. And
Frederick.
Yeah, and he's a lot older. He's like a grown man, so I would imagine that the dog isn't still around at this point. But I think it's like a modern, like supposed to take place now. We'll see what they do. I mean, it's a different dynamic, but Frasier's there still, so we'll see. I think we're all kind of interested and at least curious about that. So I'm pretty sure all three of us are going to at least give it a try.
I would say that I'm really interested in seeing The Buccaneers, which is going to be on Apple TV. And The Buccaneers is based on the Edith Wharton novel. And they're touting it as a kind of like a Bridgerton type of show. And it takes place in what's called the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age is actually a show that's on HBO that's coming out. Season 2 is coming out on October 29th. And The Buccaneers is coming out on Apple TV on November 8th. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and get my Bridgerton fix. And then I'm a big fan of the PBS. And so Finding Your Roots is coming out in January. So I'm looking forward to that. And I just to talk about shows coming back, though, I did want to point out NCIS has the New York, NCIS LA. Well, now they have NCIS Sydney, Australia, and that's coming out in the middle of November as well.
Yeah, November 14th. Also, middle of October, kind of skipped over. There's Rick and Morty's coming back. That one for some of the people that are into that jam. I've seen all of those. I don't know how far it is devolved, but it's still pretty good.
So you're a fan of those? Is that what you're saying, Candice?
It's
That's your
I
jam?
like a lot of things, but yeah, I'll enjoy some Rick and Morty. And then there is Fargo's coming back end of November as well on FX. And we were gonna see Echo on Disney Plus finally premiere November 29th, but that's now been pushed to January 2024.
Yeah, not all shows though come out at the sweeps time, and I'll give you one exception was that Breaking Bad premiered on AMC in March, and then that ended up being like one of the highest rated shows ever. So there are exceptions that come out at different times outside of the quote unquote sweeps period.
Yeah, and sometimes they try to put like their finales or they'll break the show into like a part 1 and part 2 so that they have these major moments to have people all tune in for those sweeps.
There was a mini series called The Changeling that's on Apple TV. It has started in late September, and I saw the trailer, and it's like a spooky one. So I was like, oh, I can't wait for this, and I really couldn't wait. So I rented the book, and I finished the book. So now I can wait to binge watch and kind of thing. And it takes a turn. I was like, that is not what I expected to happen. But it's an interesting, it's curious. It's very curious on how they will pull it off TV wise.
What's so great is a lot of things in books and even things that have more fantastical elements they're so much easier to do now with all of the technology. So I wonder if there are books and stories from the past that are now going to be able to be made into screen-based media because of our advancements. So, and we all know we've even had an episode that Sandra hosted about books becoming movies. So check that one out. But yeah, it's a great resource that obviously people have for film. Are there? I don't know of many television shows that come from books. Actually, no, there are some. There's plenty.
There's a couple, especially coming out this coming new fall season. I've noticed they said it based on a short story or based on a book or something like that. It's kind of interesting, but historically, I can't think of any.
Goosebumps is coming out on Hulu next in like a few weeks.
Yeah, that's based on the little sort of kid scary stories. I remember hearing about those. I didn't really read them when I was younger, but I did hear about them. In addition to the standard fall things, another thing that we know that we're just going to get braced for, and at least the people present company here, I think is excited that the fall also means certain holidays. This is spooky season. We have done specials on Halloween movies and Christmas movies and holiday movies and all of that. So we're kind of sliding into those times, and those are also good rating grabs that people do for, feel good stuff or certain new specials or movies. But in terms of just this year, it is different, but we still have plenty to watch. And now when you watch shows, you might think a little differently about, oh, they're building this up to be the big, let's all watch it now for a reason. But again, I mean, as Sandra even pointed out, that's evolving. It doesn't have as much impact, I don't think, as it used to, where everyone tunes in to watch something, as you said at the top, unless it's Taylor Swift at a football game or Taylor Swift anything anywhere. She's a big draw. So yeah, if you want your show to really crush sweeps, just have Taylor Swift on it.
Right.
Anyway, any final parting thoughts or what you're looking forward to, or any final thoughts on sweeps?
I think there's something for everyone out there.
Well, I learned a lot. I wanted to thank you guys because I remember when we were deciding we need to do a host thing for this season. let's do the sweeps. I'm like, I know nothing about sweeps. I hear the terms and all sorts of stuff. So I got to learn a lot. So thank you guys.
Of course. We hope everyone else learned as well, because it is one of those things you just hear all the time and you never take the time to find out why it actually is that.
I think we had an opportunity to talk about a little history, but at the same time, talk about what's coming up, and that there's something for all age groups and for all genres. And I think it's an exciting upcoming season.
So there's still plenty of things to watch. And with all these strikes, we're going to keep an eye on everything. And some of these things that should have come out this fall, we'll keep our eyes peeled for when they come out next year or the year after. And hopefully they're not gone for good. But in the meantime, we hope you all enjoy watching whatever floats your boat this fall season, because there's plenty to watch for fall sweeps.
Thank you for listening to Media and Monuments, and keep on listening.
Thank you for listening to Media and Monuments, a service of Women in Film and Video. Please remember to review, rate, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. For more information about WIF, please visit our website at www.wif as in Frank, V as in Victor.org.